don't really have specific notes for game by game, unfortunately.
Okay.
Just because they're all kind of a blur, but I can hit the high notes. And,
okay. Well, I hope you remember some things about our game, because I don't remember much of it at all.
I remember the Emble Hunt really well.
Okay, well, great.
That was super fun.
We played a game one-on-one, right?
What?
At Cinco.
We did?
Yes.
When? What happened?
It was the second game on Friday night. We tied. You killed two of my dudes permanently.
Wow.
Yeah.
I forgot that happened.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Extremely good. Extremely cool. Extremely good.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 51 of the 40k Badcast. My name is Dan Boyd, and I am joined, as always, by professional pool player extraordinaire, Connecticut Slim. Slim, how you doing? That's right. It's no longer a 40k podcast. It's a billiards podcast now.
Yeah, we're down into pool shark territory. So actually, fun fact, there is a Campbell McLaughlin who is a professional bowler, I think.
Shit.
Yeah, so that's a thing I was aware of. I think the first time I Googled my name, I found that out, and I was like, huh, okay, the bar is set pretty low then.
Oh, man. Okay, so two things. One, that's fun. I guess pool and bowling are kind of adjacent in that they're old people sports, or not sports, but activities. We might get some shit for that one. No, we're not. Nobody plays pool or bowling. Like, get the fuck out of here.
There's a pool hall in like the college slum part of Boston. A friend of mine goes there sometimes. Every time I'm down there, he's usually out there smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
And last time I saw him there, he got cigarette ash in his eye, and it was really funny.
So, okay, and the second part of that is I want you to guess what occupation a Daniel Patrick Boyd, who is in the news, has.
Is Florida man an occupation or just a title?
No, I'm just going to tell you, domestic terrorist.
Oh, cool.
He tried to bring, he was a guy in like North Carolina or something. I think he tried to bring explosives on a plane, and he has the exact same name as I do.
Cool.
So that made flying for a couple of years kind of fun.
I'd say I went to college with a guy named John Brown, and he was on every do not fly list or whatever, just because he had the most common name possible.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah, almost.
The historical John Brown was fucking awesome, though.
Yeah, that guy ruled, but he wasn't a domestic terrorist the way the other John Browns are.
John Brown and Thurgood Marshall, man. Those are like my two favorite historical figures. Well, I guess two of my favorite historical figures. I've got a lot. Anyway.
That's it. Breaking down the top 10. Here we go.
Hey, that's an idea for a fucking bonus content.
Yeah, favorite historical figures, and hopefully none of them get milkshake ducked retroactively. They all will.
Yeah, that never happens.
Ever.
Okay.
Let me tell you about John Wayne.
Oh, God. Okay, let's move on to our actual show and talk about Warhammer 40k and other stuff around it. And let's get into the aspects or what's on our hobby radar. And we usually start with hobby progress. So, Campbell, I interestingly enough, after Cinco De Necro, I got bit by the I want to play more Necromunda bug.
Oh, cool. That's like what happened to me, but not.
So I've actually been painting Orlocks.
Oh, nice.
Another 5 Orlocks. They had been sitting in my miniatures case, my specialist games case, for like a year. They've been primed and built. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, you know what? I really like Necromunda right now. I want to use this momentum and actually paint these 5 Orlocks. It would give me 20 Orlocks. And, buddy, these weapon options I have on these Orlocks are bad. Let me break it down for you. So the best one is bolt pistol and maul, which is actually not a bad combo
that is
at all.
Cool.
It's a little expensive for a ganger, but it's potentially you could put it on a Juve who's already leveled up. It's not bad at all. Mm. Then the second not that bad is a flamer, just a guy with a flamer. Flamers, especially in Zone Mortalis games, they pull a lot of weight. They're pretty good. Then we're going to start moving towards the bad with a hand flamer and auto pistol guy.
That's redundant.
No, not so much. Well, yeah, I guess so. It's also, that's another one that like, oh, you got a Juve, and you're like, okay, he's leveled up, so I can give him something worth more than 20 credits. I'll throw a fucking hand flamer on him. Now I don't need to worry about ballistic skill upgrades for the rest of his life, which will probably be short. So that's somewhat useful. And then we go to Hand Flamer and Servo Claw. And Campbell, I do not know what I was thinking when I built this guy.
I didn't know what you were thinking either, because like I've built and painted all like the weapon options I had for all my Necromunda guys, which means I do have a dude with a Hand Flamer and a Power Axe, and let me tell you, that guy costs like 200 credits.
Yeah, the Hand Flamer 75, the Servo Claw 35. So that's 110 credits in equipment right there. And you don't want to use a Hand Flamer on a champion or leader because you're wasting their ballistic skill of 3 up, that is. And,
4 up on a champ. Oh, never mind.
Well, on one of your champions for Goliath.
My champs have bad BS.
And then the last guy takes the cake as the worst possible armament for any of my gang members, and it's a Heavy Flamer.
Nice.
And I'm doing it. I'm building it.
Cool and good.
Why? Because I don't know why. Because I just wanted to use the Heavy Flamer that came in the weapons pack, and I'm using it, and it's real fucking bad. But hey, I'll have it for the time I literally never use it. It'll never see the table.
If you get suspensors and feel like, making this guy cost like 300 credits, is it at all viable at that point?
Yes. Okay. In a Zone Mortalis game, there is a use case. Like if you're running out of, in Necromunda, like, we're going to talk about more. We're going to talk a lot about Necromunda this episode, guys. So
we're relying too much.
So fucking buckle up. The problem is that most of the games you're going to play are between 6 and 10 models that you're using per side. So I think your gang at the end of the campaign of Cinco de Necro, you had 14. Don't give it away. You had 14. I had 13, right? And our last game, we played whole gang games, so we could just use our whole gangs. But you're most of the time, you're only going to use between 6 and 10 guys. So as a gang gets higher rating, more powerful, all that stuff, it kind of makes sense to start, instead of buying more gangers, to start buying more specialized weaponry for your champions and leaders.
I feel it also gets kind of unwieldy the more guys you have in the game.
It does. So yeah, if you're playing a game, especially a game or campaign where you're mixing between Zone Mortalis and Sector Mechanicus games, Zone Mortalis, of course, being tunnels, Sector Mechanicus being a 4x4 with like gantries and walkways and shit, there is a case to be made that you could have like a champion who's got a heavy stubber or heavy bolter for the outside stuff, and then a heavy flamer for the inside stuff. Because the heavy flamer actually, like in a Zone Mortalis game, if you have suspensors, which means you can move and fire with it because it's unwieldy, is terrifying.
Yeah, I believe it, but you need to get that roll on the rarity chart, get that. Like, we're getting in the weeds as far as Necromunda goes, but the takeaway for the layman is Heavy Flamer's bad. Heavy Flamer's bad.
Let me tell you the credits for Heavy Flamer plus Dispenser.
Oh my God.
You ready?
Yeah.
245.
Oh, amateur hour. That's as much as like 4 gangers?
Yeah, it's bad. Okay, well, I'm doing it anyways, though, and I'm actually enjoying painting these guys. They're starting to look pretty good. And I have my Amble on my desk.
Amble or Ambot?
Sorry, Ambot. Thank you for correcting me. I have my Ambot on my desk because I'm thinking about weathering it. And I sponge weathering. We've talked about this before. I sponge weather it with Rhinox and then go in with a brush and pick out some of the bolt gun is I think what I'm going to do. But I want to give it a little more oomph, because while I like the model, I see yours, which is very heavily weathered, and I honestly I like that more. But I'm still of two minds with weathering, because some days, like today, I feel like, fuck yeah, man, weathered stuff looks great, and then other days I'm like, man, fuck weathering. Weathering is for chumps.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the fuck's going on in my head.
I'm thinking about putting together a very basic weathering 101 for how I do my sponge weathering stuff for Goonhammer.
Oh, you totally should.
I actually took some pictures when I was doing it on some intercessors I was working on recently. I'm thinking about doing that. I'm now on there as part of their Tale of Goon Nova Gamers, whatever that series I'm part of that I don't remember the name of is. I'm in the introductory post. I haven't actually put out a formal post yet because although I have Hobby Progress time, I have finished my 4th squad of intercessors and I want to post them in a photo. I haven't taken pictures of them because I was going to today, but Numi's cat bed is on top of the trunk where I keep all my photo taking equipment, and she hasn't gotten out of her cat bed all day, and I don't want to disturb my cat.
You can't move the cats.
I can't move the cats.
That's
illegal.
a rule. It's part of the documents you sign when you get a cat.
Exactly.
You say if the cat is sleeping, you cannot move the cat.
Right. It is the only good law. So
only good law.
The only good law.
The only good law.
Yes. It's the one commandment.
Okay, so like child labor laws, like not good, not necessary.
Iffy. But when Meowsis came down from the mountain.
Meowsis?
Yeah.
Man, we're doing it today, bud.
I know. I'm going like full Joanne's Fabric level jokes here.
Okay, tell me about your hobby progress, because that's all I've been doing in my hobby progress.
I did finish that Squad of Intercessors, like I mentioned. I just recently, actually yesterday, finished building my Redemptor, just because I'm trying to clear out space in my closet, and there's a lot of boxes and
If I remember correctly, you were having some trouble with that.
I tried to have it be in kind of a dynamic pose where it's stomping on some rubble, but because like the pegs and the pistons in the legs and the pegs in the feet, he ended up looking less like he was stomping through rubble and more like he was slipping on a banana peel.
Notice how in that chat I didn't say anything.
No, you didn't, which I appreciate very much. You let me come to my own conclusion there. But in between him, doing that, I snapped him off, I shaved the pegs down, I pinned the ankles and so on, and now he actually does look how I want him to look, where he's like leaning back a little bit, firing a big-ass gun, but he doesn't look like he's about to totally eat it. But really, my big piece of hobby progress this week was, actually goes back to last week, right before I was about to leave for Cinco De Necro. It was that Thursday, and Thursday night I was going to go down to Dylan's, and he and I were going to head over Friday morning. And, you and I are talking and you're like, oh man, you should get a heavy bolter leader. And for your gang, a heavy bolter leader would be so good for your Goliaths. It'd be so thematic. It would look so cool. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I got the bits, but I was going to do it afterwards. And I think I posted like a Discord channel or something like that. And basically I got the same thing of like, do it, you coward, build this guy. You need this guy. And I'm like, okay, I've got 2 hours of work I need done. It is noon. I'm leaving at 6. How long will it take to build and paint this guy? So I math it out. I build him, and right as I'm done building him, it starts raining. And like I've converted this guy, so he's got like a knob shoulder pad with a buzzsaw blade on it, which looks super on theme for Goliath. He's got a bunch of extra armor plates. He's got an axe in one hand, the heavy bolter in the other. Like this is Big Muscla himself, or as he'll soon be known, Big Chungus himself. And I was like, yeah, time to paint him, and it is fucking downpouring outside. And I'm just like, okay, how am I going to do this? I need to paint this model tonight. Like, I absolutely need to. I even asked Dylan, like, hey, is it cool if I bring paints and we just hang out and paint? He was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing. So I go outside with an umbrella cricked between my neck, and I'm just angled just so it's over the model. And I'm like huddled over this box with this umbrella in my neck, spray painting it, huffing down God knows how many carcinogens.
Fuck yeah.
And, but I got a nice even coat on him. Got him into my basement. He aired out for a little while, and I stayed up till 2:45 that morning painting him. But by God, he's fucking done, and he did some fucking work at Cinco de Necro.
He certainly did. We will get to that. Let's move on to games played. We're not going to talk about Cinco de Necro yet. We're going to spend most of the show on Cinco de Necro. But have you played any non-Cinco de Necro games?
No, although I am playing Necromunda this weekend, Friday and Saturday.
Oh, fun. Yeah, I played a game of 40k.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was a 3-person game in the Estratus campaign system. It was between me, Chris's Death Guard, and Jay's Dark Eldar. And it was a 1,000-point each side game, continuation of a game where we all tied in our big Estratus kickoff comms tower fight. So this was the final battle for the comms tower, and I did not win. Jay won. But the reason Jay won is because Chris decided to ignore Jay and completely go after me, which is fine. It's a cool thing to do. But he had flyers. He had 2 of those blight drones or bloat drones or whatever they were called.
Yeah.
And Jay had a bunch of like splinter weapons and disintegrators, which are good at killing, well, honestly, splinter weapons aren't really good at killing Marines. But disintegrators are. But you know what disintegrators are not good at killing? Things with toughness. Well, no, yes, true. Things with toughness of greater than 5. They're not good at it. So, and those things come in at like toughness 7. And so if he had taken them and just flown up to the top and killed a bunch of mandrakes, and I'm serious when I say mandrakes that Jay had at the top of this comms tower, it would have been a game that, you know, maybe wouldn't have easily fallen into Jay's hands. But no, Chris fucking comes my way. And so I'm like, well, fuck you, dude. And he kills a couple of my squads, and then Captain Melanius, Shadow Captain Melanius, my special character, just goes in and goes fucking hog wild on Chris's entire army and kills a Demon Prince, 2 bloat drones, and then ties up a twin Butcher Cannon Contemptor for like 3 turns.
Righteous.
Yeah. So... And then, you know, my guys didn't do anything. His guys didn't do anything. And Jay just sort of chills out on the comms tower by himself the entire game with really no challenge for it whatsoever. So, and I was telling Chris, I was like, listen, dude, you can do this. You can attack me and like we can have our shit fight or whatever. And then Jay can just like hang out and win. Or we can actually go for the fucking comms tower and make a game of this. And he was like, no, man, I'm just fucking coming after you. You're the closest. You're the closest guy. I'm like, you got fucking flyers, dude. They ignore vertical terrain. You don't have to worry about all this shit. He's like, no, you're the fucking closest guy. I'm coming for you. It's like, thanks, Chris. Thanks for handing the comms tower over to the Dark Eldar player.
Oh, great. That's a 3-for-all for you.
Yeah. So it was a fun game, though. Like, I mean, there was like, you know, shit talking back and forth. Like, I'm not mad at Chris for this. I wasn't mad during and I'm not mad after. But it was just like, it's just one of those situations where like I was looking at the writing on the wall and reading it clearly to people. And people were like, nah, I don't think it says that. So it was still a fun game.
It sounds like a game-long utterance of, come on, man.
It's a little bit like that. So let's move on to new stuff. And boy, howdy, bud, there's a whole lot of stuff. So let me start breaking it down. Let's start with Warcry, of all things. Which
gladly.
I don't know what Warcry is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be like an arena combat game. What's that arena combat game? Something Rex?
Arena Rex.
Arena Rex, yeah.
It's in the name.
I don't know if it's going to be like that. I don't know if it's going to be like a campaign system like Necromunda or a half-assed campaign system like Kill Team or what. But the models look absolutely fantastic for it. And they released a new warband, I guess,
they showed off a new warband.
Chaos Warriors who are heavily snake and poison themed.
Yes, they are the Splintered Fang, which remind me an awful lot of the snake cult from Conan, which is clearly kind of the central touchstone of this entire game, and I'm very down with that.
I have been calling them House Slytherin.
That also works. Muscle House Slytherin. But they do have a Chaos Elf, which that's cool. That's not a common thing.
The first time they've done an actual Chaos Elf model since the probably early 90s.
Yeah, to my knowledge anyway. Yeah, which is very cool.
The models look fantastic. There's snakes everywhere. There's poison and like little injectors, like fantasy injectors and
snakes, which are biological injectors.
Yes, the snake fangs. Yeah, so really cool models, man. I'm excited to see how this game like really gets filled out for the rest of it with the rules and the rest of the models and stuff. I really like the gang. The I forget what they're called, but they're like covered in metal and scales, and they have scale beards and stuff. Like I really like the aesthetic there. I really like the snake gang. They did like a muscle bunch gang that I'm sure you're a big fan of, the hunters or whatever, which I don't really care about. But the snake gang and the metallic gang dudes are really good. Love the models, and I love like the idea that they are chaos warbands who are fighting for Archaon's favor. Or some shit. I don't know. I
also like that they're chaos warbands that aren't just obviously like the 4 main themes, maybe 5 themes of chaos you can really play with.
Right.
They're just going on. Like one of the cool things, if you played Warhammer Total War, if you played as Norska or whatever, when you captured a city or raised a city, you could raise it in the name of like the Raven or in the name of, you know, the Bull or whatever. And these animals that are kind of obviously like they play with the sort of chaos demon god archetypes, but they aren't necessarily one-to-one compared to those. And I like this sort of thing because like, snakes, that's kind of a Tzeentchian thing. It's all about subterfuge, but it's not just straight up like, here's birds and extra arms. It's cool to see a different side of chaos here. But I should mention that the stuff we're going to be talking about right now has pretty much all come out at the Warhammer Fest, which happened last weekend. It's the 15th of May as we're talking. And that was held at some arena, I think in London. Could be wrong. I don't really know geography in England that well. But it was not at Warhammer World. It was at, I think, Rico Arena,
Could be wrong again. I don't know. Don't have my browser open in front of me. Not really caring, though. So they had a lot of new releases and seminars and stuff about that, and we're going to get to
I will say,
those.
Did you see the Warcry live action video?
No.
It's less cheesy than the, like, 90s Space Hulk one or the cutscenes from Final Liberation, but it's still a little cheesy.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
It feels very much like, I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely getting a consistent like 80s fantasy sort of atmosphere.
It's very Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah, it's very Conan. It's very Krull.
Yeah.
It's very like a little bit Excalibur in there. It's good. I'm very
Masters
into where this
of the
is
Universe
going.
action.
A lot of Masters of the Universe going in here.
Yeah, no, I really like the models for Warcry so far. We're going to get to it at the end of new stuff because I want to save it for the end. But there is an important development that might make the fact that you can like get a small group of some done way quicker. That is really, really important. But we're gonna come back to that. So let's talk quickly about Warhammer Underworld Season 3. They teased it. They didn't even show us the logo for it. They had it blacked out, and okay, cool. And but they showed us a picture of one model, and it is a lion. So a lot of people on the internet are thinking that high elves are going to be making a comeback for Warhammer Underworlds.
I would say the collar it's wearing does look like an old fantasy elf collar. It throws me off. That's not a white lion, but that's okay.
It's got a shoulder pad too, which I was like, yeah, that's a thing you put on cats.
That's cats who love wearing clothes, famously. Also, I feel really sorry for the guy who has to strap that on to the fucking lion.
Right, yeah.
I'm curious how Warcry is going to distinguish itself from Shadespire, from Kill Team, from Age of Sigmar Skirmish, from Necromant. I'm curious how it's going to distinguish itself from all these things.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know. We haven't had at least I haven't had any information on how Warcry is actually going to play.
Yeah. So I'm sorry to double back there for a second, but it just made me think of that again because some people are figuring like they've shown icons of other factions there and they look kind of like the Shadespire warbands or Warhammer Underworld's warbands. They might be playable in there too. But
yeah, I guess we got to stop calling it Shadespire.
Yeah,
that was just
way
the
catchier.
First season.
I know, but it's way catchier than Warhammer Underworlds. It's way cooler. It's even more trademarkable. Like
maybe we
it's
should just call it Underworlds. Can we just like drop the Warhammer, call it Underworlds?
Sure, let's call it Underworlds.
Underwears. All right, so enough about Underpants. Let's move to Blood Bowl quickly. So they gave us a shot of Deeproot Strong Branch, which is a treeman special character that halflings and wood elves can use. And they gave us a side-on shot first, and everybody hated it. And then they gave us like a 360 on the Twitch TV stream about specialist games, and it looked way fucking better. And I think everybody kind of relaxed a little bit. We're like, okay.
It suffers from the same thing that like every big guy for Blood Bowl and even to a degree Necromunda kind of suffers from, where it's a lot of very closed poses just because they have to fit in bases small enough to fit on the pitch.
Yeah, or like the troll throwing a goblin is like a really tall pose.
Yes.
Which it also has its own amount of challenges on the Blood Bowl pitch where you can't lay it down, and a lot of models on Blood Bowl, they spend half the game either on their face or on their back. So it's kind of a pain in the butt. Though Deeproot Strong Branch is really fucking good, so him getting knocked down probably not going to happen. They also showed us a computer rendering of a wood elf thrower.
Yes.
And if you're into elf bullshit, and a lot of people are in Blood Bowl, wood elves have the highest amount of bullshit available to them. They, I know you don't know anything about Blood Bowl, but they have a character called a War Dancer who comes in at like 120,000 gold pieces per, which is the most expensive standard character in the game, and they absolutely whip ass. Like they're stupid fucking good. Everybody hates them. And then Wood Elves, their whole gimmick is they're like a throwing team. And because they're elves, they can fucking throw it off. Though I think technically high elf teams are better at throwing, like with the skill breakdown. Doesn't fucking matter. I'm sorry. Wood elves, they're back, and it looks cool. I mean, if you are into the whole wood elf aesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dryad Star Player looks really good, and the paint job on it is incredible.
Willow Rosebark. Yeah, this is I think this is the same painter who did the Deeproot Strong Branch, because you can tell. Well, I mean, you can tell. And like I think both paint jobs are really good, but the Willow Rosebark model is fucking choice. Super strong model.
So I know you're like with halflings, you're like, this is the last team that should ever get done because no one really needs
I was
it,
wrong.
but it's okay.
I was 100% wrong.
Yeah.
Listen, listeners, I got dragged for that a little bit on Twitter and an email and stuff, and I want to apologize right now. The halfling team is fucking great, and I'm very sorry for saying that it was the last team that anybody wanted, because it's obviously a fantastic team, and they're giving it full support with a pitch, with dice, with a spike. Of course, everything comes out with dice and a spike journal, but they're getting their own pitch and dugouts, which is fantastic.
Sweet.
And I'm 100% in for the halfling team. Am I going to buy it and play it? No, certainly not. But I love the idea that it's there for everybody to use. Mm-hmm. So let's move on to Necromunda a little bit, if you don't mind. So
gladly.
We saw pictures of the Delac heads, the head upgrade from Forge World, and the weapon upgrades. And I got to tell you, bud, the heads for the Delac gangers, extremely underwhelming.
I think they kind of look a lot like the plastic ones, like that already exist. Where it's just like a big goggle and bald and scowling.
Well, that's the thing. Like Delac heads are just like bald people with glasses, or sunglasses specifically, where and then this set has a few with hoods, which okay, cool.
I like the hoods. I like the gas masks. The regular heads, which is like a guy scowling with big old bulbous eyes, is pretty much what you're already getting.
Unfortunately, like Delac, there just isn't a lot of differentiation in the look throughout. Every gang is supposed to look similar or whatever, but the big thing that will differentiate your gangers is their faces and their heads, right?
Yeah.
So when everybody looks the same because of the design of the gang, it doesn't really work. So
yeah,
I thought that was
intentional, but yeah,
it's. I mean, of course it's intentional. It's and it's fitting in with the way they look, but I wouldn't buy it. You know, if I were a Delac player, I would just use the heads already because the heads all look the same. So fuck it. Anyways, who cares?
Everyone benefits from having chainsaw hats. Everyone should follow the Goliath look here and get some chainsaw hats. I think that'd be good.
Or the Orlok thing where half the dudes look like Immortan Joe from Mad Max Fury Road, which I'm 100% for. So also that they showed us painted models of the Dome Runner and the Ammo Jack.
Yeah, speaking of Mad Max, the Dome Runner feels very Mad Max.
The Dome Runner is a fantastic model for a hanger-on that nobody ever takes and is like completely useless.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had the collapsed dome during that whole campaign, so I would have used him.
That actually would help because you could, I guess,
I could run dome.
Yeah, you could get more credits from that, I think.
Yeah,
or
and have
would
guys
you
die in them less often.
Avoid somebody dying from?
I don't know because I never read the rules for Dome Runner. Because why would I?
Why would you? Yeah, that's a good point. I can't remember the rules for the Dome Runner off the top of my head either. Maybe I'll look them up during the show. And the Ammo Jack, and in the stream that week, they also showed us the Squat Ammo Jack.
Yeah, I love all the Ammo Jacks.
Whose last name is Gunstein or Gunstein, and I'm a big fan of that. They also came out with the non-KKK version of the Cawdor special character, the Executioner.
I think he looks awesome.
They took off his hood and removed 2 of the 3 nooses around his neck.
Right.
So that was, I think, an improvement all around. However,
I agree.
I have already been... people have already been sharing screenshots with me of people claiming that they will convert him back to look more like a KKK member because they have worms in their brains.
Cool. Extremely cool, extremely normal, extremely good behavior.
They also showed us the rules, the rule cards for the Executioner and the Squat Ammo Jack. And one thing, the Executioner is actually a combat fucking monster.
I'd believe it.
Which is, he looks like a lot of fun, and he's not too expensive. But then the Squat Ammo Jack, his shtick is that normally Ammo Jacks, you don't use them in fights unless you're fighting on your terrain and they happen to be around, because they're not fighters, they're ammo dudes. But this Squat, you can hire him and bring him along to fights, and he's pretty good. Here's the thing, Campbell, he doesn't have the munitioneer skill, which is like part of the reason why you'd want an Ammo Jack on the table.
I mean, he's still a T4 guy with a bolter.
Yeah, he is that, but he doesn't have the skill for Ammo Jacks. We're later in this episode, I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant about Necromunda and specifically their rules. So we'll save that. But other big Necromunda news is they are bringing back Necromunda Enforcers. They gave us a little tease. So they didn't show us any models. They just showed us the logo, and they had a cool little teaser video where it's like all these radio transmissions between individuals. And I'm thinking to myself as I'm watching it, I'm like, Necromunda guys don't have fucking radios. What is this? Then, of course, I'm like, oh, it's cops. Oh, God.
Finally, Necromunda gets bad guys.
Oh, God. Hello, NSA. How you doing?
But I'm looking forward to those, though. I mean, I think it could be interesting also, like, as far as a narrative thing goes, if you show that the enforcers are really no better than the gangers. Because I think that would also, like, I'm not just trying to, like, I mean, that's really Warhammer.
Well, there's one
really grimdark.
There's one reason that Scott Horse, who was like, oh, if Enforcers come out, I'll play it. And then I showed him the trailer. He's like, oh, it's fucking great. Is because he's a big fan of Judge Dredd.
Yes.
But here's the thing about Scott. I don't know if he likes Judge Dredd ironically or if he's like into Judge Dredd.
I mean, even then, that's kind of a different way to.
And there's a lot of people out there who are like Judge Dredd fans who are like into the idea of how awesome Judge Dredd is.
Yeah. For more on this, listen to our bonus episode about comic books.
We should have a fucking bonus episode on Judge Dredd. That would be an interesting one. Okay, well, let's move on to what I'm second most excited about in this whole thing is Aeronautica Imperialis is fucking coming back.
Swooping back in.
That's right, motherfuckers. Planes, 40k planes, coming back. Okay. Aeronautica Imperialis existed for like 2 years. It was a Forge World game where you sold you little resin planes and you played basically X-Wing with them, where you had little templates that would show you what maneuvers you could use, and some planes could use up to, like, there were like 4 classes of maneuvers, and like the really fast planes could use all 4, and all the Tau planes could only use 1 because they're slow. But
fuck them.
The game was awesome. It was like X-Wing, but there was an altitude element in it too. Like you couldn't shoot at stuff if they were too high above you or too far below you. And like there were surface to air, like defense platforms and shit. It was fucking awesome. It was cool as shit and I loved it. And before I could have money to get into it, it went away. It disappeared.
Yeah. So my plan is to get some Thunderbolts because that's my favorite Warhammer plane.
Love Thunderbolts.
And run around the house blaring either Aces High or Danger Zone, depending on my mood that day.
Aces High.
But you know what? I was figuring they were going to do something with the Adeptus Titanicus scale beside just giant robots.
Yes.
Which, like, giant robots, super fucking cool, extremely into them. But, like, I figure they're doing the boards, they're doing the terrain, which looks really nice.
It does.
And I'm curious, I don't know the actual scale of old Aeronautica Imperialis, if it would be consistent with
true scale 6mm. This has been explained to me where Epic was 6mm game, but like the Titans and the planes in Epic were too small for actual 6mm, whereas Aeronautica Imperialis was true scale 6mm, which means that the planes in Aeronautica were bigger than the Epic planes that were around at the same time.
Okay. Basically, I was curious if we'd be seeing the old models come back or if they'll make new ones. Because if the scale was consistent, I could see them doing that. But I'd expect them to want to make new hotness planes.
So here's
probably
the thing.
In plastic.
Here's what the scuttlebutt, the speculation is on AI. Is that it's going to be a sister game to AT, Adeptus Titanicus.
Yes.
Same scale, and perhaps down the road there might even be some interactions between the two. And that tells me that AI is probably going to be set in 30K. And it'll be only Imperial planes.
So no elf bullshit here.
No elf bullshit, but more importantly, no orc bullshit.
Oh, because orcs just rammed everything in Aeronautica Imperialis.
They had grot bombs, which they would every turn they would go down an altitude point. Because they were gliding, they weren't powered. So what you do, you take your orc bombers and you release all your grot bombs, and you could control them, but they would just fly down. And so that was how you try to hit everything because they had to have to come in contact with the other planes. And it was hilarious. They were fantastic. So that actually kind of tempers my enthusiasm for Aeronautica Imperialis because I love the fun of Eldar planes and Tau planes and Orc planes and Necron planes and Imperial planes and Chaos planes and all the different types of bullshit you get with all of those. Mm-hmm. And I think just having it be Imperial planes during the Horus Heresy, well, I get it because they want it to mix with Adeptus Titanicus, and that's probably part of the reason why they're making it. Man, it's a lot more boring. It's not as good.
Yeah, but Xiphons, they're cool.
Xiphons are cool. Yeah, and I guess there's
just Battlestar
are there like
Raptors.
Storm Ravens and shit in 30K?
There's not Storm Ravens, but Storm Birds and so on, like Thunderhawks. There's a lot of planes all shaped like boxes that there will be available in this game.
Well,
I'm interested. I'm very interested.
Yeah, I loved Aeronautica Imperialis the first time, so I'm excited to see what they've done with it this time. Okay, so let's quickly touch on Apocalypse. They showed a bunch of box contents. The box themselves showed a short video, and anything to make Apocalypse good is I'm happy with.
See, they're saying like games done in an evening, big Apocalypse games done in an evening, which sounds awesome, but I will believe it when I see it. Like I am skeptical just because I've played multiple Apocalypse games and I know they're going to be streamlining it a lot, like movement trays, D12s, a bunch of cards. Like there's a lot of cool stuff going into this, but I will need to play this for myself before I really believe Apocalypse done in an evening.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have no enthusiasm for Apocalypse.
I need to be convinced that it'll be fun because, like, my favorite part of an Apocalypse game is when everything's set up and you just go, man, this is cool. And then you go, oh, for the next 8 hours of my life, you're going to be playing this game.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is the best part.
It's too much of a good thing.
All right, so let's bring it into why we have this podcast and talk about 40K. And the first thing on the list, Campbell, it's what I'm most excited about, the fucking Repulsor Executioner. The second Executioner we learned about at Warhammer Fest, but this is the big one. This is the big boy, and he's got a big old gun. And man, Campbell, I hope this model doesn't fucking suck because the two guns, right? There's the laser destroyer,
yes,
which is like a D3 shot las cannon or something.
Who knows?
Who knows? And then the heavy plasma incinerator, not the heavy, but the big one from the Redemptor. And that gun sucks, dude. It's a D6 shot, strength 8, overcharging to 9 plasma gun. It is not good at all.
There's a reason I didn't plastic glue it onto my Dreadnought. I'm not really big on this model. I like their base repulsor model. I like that the repulsor's guns are all kind of short barrels and it looks kind of has a similar silhouette to like a Bradley. But like that big barrel makes you think that like if you turn it sideways and fire, it's going to flip over. Which I mean, okay, I kind of love that too. Like anytime I see a Space Marine thing and I don't really like it, I just need to it'll grow on me. With the exception of Centurions, like everything has grown on me to a pretty great degree. So maybe I'll like it when I see it in person. I have a repulsor still new in box, so I'm going to wait for this one to come out because maybe I'll be able to magnetize or something like that and only paint one. I think it fills
the hulls are
niche.
different.
The hulls are different?
The hulls are different. No, you won't be able to do it.
Fuck.
Yeah. The hulls are slightly different. They're like the top of the hull of the Executioner doesn't have all of the Stormbolter turrets over the doors. And the only pictures we saw had heavy bolter hull weapons. It might not be able to take las cannon hull weapons, which it needs. The repulsor does.
It needs to.
That is. So
okay.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't suck, dude. I really hope it doesn't. I'm gonna buy one. I'm gonna paint one. I'm gonna make sure I have the weapon options for it. But I'm just over here crossing my fucking fingers, hoping it doesn't suck shit.
Well, unlike the Astraeus, it is a transport. Another transport is the AdMac Cover Higgins boat.
Yes. Okay.
I love this thing.
Okay. At first, I was like, this is stupid. And then I was like, hell yeah, it's stupid. It's fucking AdMech, baby. The Adeptus Mechanicus is quickly becoming my favorite fucking faction because every way they solve a problem is just wrong.
Yeah.
Like they're supposed to be the smart, like techno wizard faction, and they get everything wrong. Every solution is wrong. Like, why the fuck would you be like, all right, so we need a transport. So let's build, I got it, a hovercraft, not that's actually hovering on anti-grav repulsors like the other shit they can make, but is hovering on an actual big rubber bullshit.
Yeah. It's so you can bump into other hovercrafts and boop yourselves along. If one gets immobilized, you just boop it for a while.
It's like, we've got all this anti-grav technology. Nah, fuck that. I got a better idea. Let's put this fucker on the ground and not give it wheels.
No, you just had like some tech priest was in, the AdMech rec room playing air hockey, and he went, "I've got it."
The AdMech rec room.
Yeah, the ad rec room.
The ad rec.
The Adeptus Recreationist, yeah.
Yeah, so there's two versions of this thing. One of them is like a D-Day lander, which
that's the
honestly is
boat.
It's a cool design.
It almost feels more like a guard thing, especially with the guys with the machine guns at the sides who are like holding the belts of ammo. Like it feels very like
it's
quote,
stupid
unquote, army in a cool way. I love it. I fucking love it.
It's so good.
But I also like the tank version of it because you can enclose it, make it more of a tank, and it's very 50s sci-fi looking.
It is
really like
it. It looks like it's got bumpers on it that came off like a 50s car.
Yeah. Yeah, it's got the caddy fins.
It's a great design for a miniatures game, but it's such a stupid design for an actual tank.
I know. It's peak Warhammer and I love it.
It's perfect. It's my stupid perfect son and I love it.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of that. That was like they showed the silhouette and I was like, what the fuck could that be? And then they showed it and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And that finally answered like a really, really long rumor engine speculation line.
Yeah.
Like where
like
they showed this like sort of symmetric looking, like what was obviously an Imperial vehicle, like rear bumper that turned out to be the rear bumper of this thing. And like you look at it now and it's like yeah. But that came out just like a fucking year ago.
Yeah, if not longer.
Yeah, so really cool.
I was kind of surprised AdMech wouldn't get a walker as their transport because that's kind of the theme of their vehicles. But I like it a lot.
I think the AdMech surprising us is exactly what they're supposed to do. So let's move on to Chaos Knights. And homeboy,
so sweet.
These fucking things are awesome.
They look like wholly new kits too, because at first I'd be like, oh, they're upgrade spoos. Then I looked at their legs and they've got this like more aggressive like reverse jointed leg. I'm no, those are new.
Yeah, they have new weapon options too. They have a fucking turbo laser.
Yeah, they look really sick. Yeah, and really cool. Yeah. I do not need any. I have good guy knights.
No, you have good guy knights. Yeah. Right. You don't need any, but you are going to do Black Legion at some point.
Iron Warriors.
You are going to do Iron Warriors at some point.
I'm going to expand my Iron Warriors.
Yeah.
I have Shadow Spear. Shadow Spear.
I
have Shadow Spear and a can of
Shadow Spur.
I got Shadow Spurs that jingle, jangle, jingle. Let's move on.
Yeah, the Chaos Knights look really good. They got chains, they got claws, they got scary faces. Excellent kits.
Yep.
All right, and then finally,
everything you could want.
The Heavy Metal team painted a Sister of Battle.
Yeah, it's the one that was teased as a 3D render like a year ago, a while ago, either way, and it looks beautiful.
Good
like it
model.
Is good fantastic representation of that old piece of art.
Yeah, and speaking of painting, contrast.
I was going to go for my big thing, which is 40k is an anime now. Bandai's making a bunch of stuff.
This. Or maybe I didn't forget about it. I just ignored it. But yeah.
Yeah, so there's a 7-inch Primaris Marine action figure, which looks super fucking cool.
It does look cool. It looks really fucking cool.
I was surprised the knee wasn't a separate joint instead of being attached to the shin. But I'm really waiting for this to get used in interesting ways on the tabletop too, because like I imagine this will be repainted and entered into painting competitions at some point. But like you always have big statues of Space Marine heroes and so on. It would be cool to actually have one that looks like kind of dynamic. That would, since it's an action figure, you could probably get it fairly affordably, and you could fuck it up and weather it and make it look like a broken down bronze statue or stone statue or whatever. I think this is going to be super cool, and I bet there's going to be more than just this one intercessor. And then there's Warhammer Chibis, which are exceedingly cute, and I want to catch them all.
Yeah, there's like an Eversor assassin, a Sister of Battle, a Space Marine with the orc head.
Yes, like the Rogue Trader.
From the Rogue Trader look.
Buck.
And something else. A Mechanicus guy, I think.
Yeah, there's a little AdMech guy, and they showed like some like panning shots you'd see like there. I saw a Grey Knight. I think I saw a few other ones, but I'm excited. They look fun. I think they'll be really fun to paint.
Yeah,
too.
the really annoying part of this fan base is going to get extra loud about these fucking things, and you know what?
Guilty.
Have fun. Enjoy yourselves. Life is short. Everything sucks.
Life is short and so are chibis.
All right, let's move on to what I think is probably the most exciting part of Warhammer Fest is they introduced a new line of paints called contrast paints. And the idea behind contrast paints is it is a very quick way to paint your models. So that's
Right.
it's a 2-stage situation where you use contrast primer, which they have 2 colors, like a gray and a white, and you combine that with their line of contrast paints, which I think are like thicker washes, basically.
That's kind of what it seems like they are. They're supposed to be like a base coat, a highlight, and a shade all in one, just because they settle into the recesses and, leave a bit on the edges just because they move away from them, and they'll end up doing just that. But the bespoke primers are like a white and a bone, and I think might be a gray and a bone, and they're formulated a little differently than typical primers. Like they aren't as gritty as a normal primer is, because it's meant to flow on them very smoothly. If I start a Horde army, which when Dark Oath get fleshed out, I probably will.
Yeah.
I might look into it.
I'm not going to use this on any of my existing armies. Maybe I'll use it if I can get it to match my Steel Legion close enough.
That'd be great.
I would
perfect,
use it
actually.
But
for Guard, it'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't use it. I can't do this on my Raven Guard. My Raven Guard are black. And they're showing like ways to do black on it, but it wouldn't work with the way all of my dudes look.
Exactly. It would be inconsistent with the look you have.
So I can't do it there. But what I could do is if I want to paint up a Blood Bowl team quickly, or if I want to paint up a Shade Spire, an Underpants warband quickly, if I want to do one of these Muscle Bunch Warcry warbands. So I'm excited to try them out. I don't know when they're going to get released. I think they said June sometime.
I think it's June or July, I think, yeah.
So I'm very excited to try them out because I think that is, like, anything to make this fucking hobby go quicker is a good thing.
Yeah.
And also anything to make it more accessible, and not just accessible, but anything to make it like for quicker, easier paint jobs to look better.
Yeah.
It's better for the hobby because more people are going to want to do it if they think it's easier to do.
Yeah, like it feels like the next evolution of washes for talent in a bottle. And I like that it's giving you another tool that, you can use for a very quick paint job aside from just dry brushing or aside from just doing like a min wax dip or whatever the hell sort of thing there is out there. I think it'll benefit some armies more than others. Like Night Haunt are going to go so fast with this stuff. Like I've got my Night Haunt warband right here for Hammer Pants. And I think this will be perfect for them because they'll like flow in the robes really nicely. And I think it'll be great for like Necrons, famously long to paint Necrons. Because it dries a little mottled too, which is good for some of this more ceramic sort of look. I think this is, again, I'm not doing this similarly. I'm not doing this in anything I already have because I already have methods for painting all the things I have. But for a new project, I could see myself definitely using it. And they've only shown it as the only step so far. I want to see how it works into other things in the system. So if you were to be like, okay, white primer, blue, whatever this contrast paint, then do like traditional highlights over that or something like that. I'm interested to see what sort of different things can be done with it. Yeah, I'm super excited for this one. I think like the whole contrast, then edge highlighting, like if you combine the two, could potentially like if you're like working on 2-step color things, that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel with like a lot of airbrush stuff too. Like just, it's a tool, and when you use just it, you can get great results. But when you combine that with other techniques, you can get really good stuff. Yeah, well, very, very excited for that. So let's move on. That was an extremely long Auspex segment. Yeah. Sorry, gang, but there's a lot to talk about. So let's move on to We Make the Call. And I got one in from Joshua White via email. And he says, how do you guys handle improving painting skill while keeping an army all looking uniform from a painting standard perspective? I came back to the hobby a year ago and started Death Guard. Since I started, I have learned new things. I constantly have to go back to add that to older models in the same army. How do you guys handle this? Do you just have a range of quality, or do you go back? Campbell, what do you do? Ooh, that's a really good question. I feel like most of the armies I've worked on more recently have been pretty consistent all the way throughout. But like I did a Crimson Fist army back. I started in 2008 and I painted it up through like 2012 or 2013. And over the course of that, I learned so much about shades and highlights and like progressively, tighter edge highlights and so on. And I never went back and updated anything. I updated the basing to be consistent, but I never updated anything else because it's reasonable to think like, okay, maybe let's say like you're using a different blue now or whatever. It's like, well, they ran out of blue paint, they used different blue paint, or it's older armor, it's a little more scuffed or what have you. But I do think if I were to do that now, like let's say, my Ultramarines, I'm up to like 1,200 points of them. I discovered some new technique that will, it's the one weird trick that doctors hate that will make this army look incredible. I think I would go back and apply it to what I've already done just to tie things back in. Although that can really be kind of, that can feed into itself pretty nastily. Like that's a cycle that could potentially never end. Because let's say I learned this new weathering technique. All right, I weathered this new squad. I'm going to go back and weather everything up through now. It's like, oh, now I'm better at this weathering technique. I could go back and do it again. Like, I feel like you have to practice self-restraint in this case.
Yeah.
Like you really do. And you have to think, what is good for me? What is good? And not just what is good for me, but what is good enough for me?
Yeah, that's really smart. I kind of do a similar thing where, like, with my Raven Guard, it's pretty much max effort for everything. Mm-hmm. Like, but for my other projects, that's not the case. I do not do max effort for my Necromunda stuff. I think my Necromunda stuff still looks good, but it's not as clean and as precise at all as my Raven Guard, or my Blood Bowl is the same way, or my Imperial Guard, my Steel Legion. That is a range of quality that I have surpassed, the Steel Legion. Yeah. But when I paint new stuff for the Steel Legion, I go back to that range of quality. Like I bring it down, like my effort and my, how much I care about the paint job. There's a lot of dry brushing in my Steel Legion. I started painting it in 2009, fucking 10 years ago, and I'm a much better painter than I was then. But I bring it down to that level because I don't want to go back and repaint the fucking 200 models I've painted for that army.
Yeah, and honestly, that can be kind of refreshing.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to. I got in the works coming up soon after I finish these fucking Necro guys. So I'm going to do just a turret, a Lumen Rust turret, because I need more battle cannons, because I always need more battle cannons. And I'm looking forward to just sort of being like, whatever, and dry brushing and washing.
Yeah.
It's going to probably take me one evening to do.
Yeah.
Which is going to be great. Nice. Yeah.
I mean, that's actually kind of how it is with like my Empire guys. Like, I do not put the same care into each of them that I put into my Space Marines or whatever. And actually, going back a step, I might try the new contrast paints in them because they're state troops. They don't need to necessarily all look consistent. And if they don't, well, they are like poor folks in the Empire who don't necessarily have industrial equipment pumping out consistent uniforms. So if there's a little bit of divergence there, that's not a big deal.
Yeah, for the contrast stuff, man, I got a bunch of unpainted guardsmen at home. I might try a squad with it when it all comes out, and to see if I can't like fully contrast up a guardsman squad and make it look really good with minimal effort. But that's neither here nor there. Joshua, I think you just have to make the decision. And if you got into the hobby recently and you're getting better and your newer stuff looks better, then you can go back. I'd say if there's easy stuff you can do to make your older stuff look better, I'd say just go ahead and do it. But there's nothing wrong with getting better as a painter, And if you want your Death Guard to be like your marquee, like look how good of a painter I am army, then you have to go back. But if you are more like just working through your first army, getting everything done, get it to tabletop standards so you can play games and feel good about the product you're putting on the field, then I wouldn't worry about it too much.
Yeah, and if they're a little inconsistent, they're Death Guard. They're going to be messy. They're going to, it's like, oh, these guys have this look. Oh, they're carrying this plague, whatever. Yeah. And, you can always do the classic move of, oh, this is the worst painted guy in the squad. He dies first.
Yeah, if I had poorly painted miniatures on my tables, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Joshua. That's a great question, though. Hopefully we helped you out a little bit on it, and I'd love for you to reach back out to us and tell you what you think of the answer after you listen to the show. All right, let's move on, man, to what we're going to be talking about for the most part of the show, believe it or not, and that's
the second most part at this point.
Cinco De Necro, the event that it was about 2.5 weeks ago that we got back from, and or a week and a half. I don't know. Time, it's hard.
10 days.
To think about it. A week and a half. Thank you. And man, Campbell, this was so much fun.
Oh, it was, spoiler alert, it was an absolute blast. It was even if there were some
complete success. And I got first, shout out to Pete for letting us come to his house and fuck around and sleep on his couches and hang out, and just for being an amazing host. It was so cool. It was so much fun. And we're so lucky that we have a friend who just lets us come to his house and fucking play miniatures games and not take showers for an entire weekend. And really like just welcome the idea of people coming in and hanging out.
No, he is the consummate host. And actually, I remember when we had him on a while ago, I think he mentioned like his pro tip for get-togethers like this is to have extra disposal areas around.
Yeah.
And he did. There was like laundry baskets under like half the tables that you just throw your empties into, so you could just cart those off at the end of it. Like he ran this whole thing like clockwork. And, you know, I know it wasn't just him that was running it like clockwork, but the fact that he opened up his home to us, like him and Kat were just willing to put up with all of us awful nerds for a few days, was super sweet of them and super fantastic.
I also want to throw a shout out to Julian, who with me arbitrated the campaign. And without him, I, couldn't have done it. I think he did a great job. We collaborated for almost a year on rules and how we would do everything. And I think it went off with a couple of hitches, but not bad ones. And I think that the idea behind it of everybody having a good time within the framework of Necromunda certainly happened. But man, I really fucking hope we get to do it again.
I think we will. Maybe next time Dylan and I'll take a rental car down, which I'll get into later.
Let's start with Friday. Let's start with arriving at Peter's house on Friday. I took off work. I drove. Well, it took me 5 hours to get up there.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
It was kind of a shit show because that morning was my fiance's school's like big spring concert. And so I like to go to those things because I want to support my fiance and of course be a good partner and take an interest in her work and her job and stuff. And so I went to that, and that was early, and then I got lunch with her because she wanted to spend a little time with me, and so I didn't get going until like 1 p.m.
Oh, man.
Which was later than I wanted to leave, but, family time. Got to happen. It took me 5 hours to get up there, though. That was, it's usually like a 4-hour drive, or if it's the middle of the night, I clocked it at the 3.5, but it took me 5. By clocking it, I mean like looking at Google Maps at like 2 o'clock in the morning and seeing how long it would take to get up there. So it took 5 hours, which wasn't great, but I had some tunes, man. I was hauling ass up the turnpike. It wasn't so bad. How was your drive down?
So we stopped, God knows where in Connecticut, where there's a brewery, but we heard there was going to be a flatbread pizza truck there that day. Ooh. And I was like, all right, sweet. Going to get some beer, going to get some good pizza, like some nice bougie pizza. This is going to be sweet. Yeah. So we get in there, and it's like noon. They're like, yeah, the pizza truck shows up at 3. And we're already like a beer and a half deep at this point. And it's like, I'm a little shitty right now. I should not. We should not be driving the car. But there was a Taco Bell across the street, so we just hung out there for a while. But we got a bunch of beer there, which we brought to the party. And yeah, honestly, the drive up was not bad at all. Just again, a lot of chit chat, a lot of Viking metal, some power metal in there too. It was all right.
Yeah. So. We get up there, and you guys got there much earlier than I did. And
yeah, we left at like 10 a.m.
And but when I got up there, a couple of the tables were already set up, and we got everything squared away. We waited for everybody to arrive. We did our briefing where we talked about certain aspects and changes that we were doing for the campaign, and then we fucking went to it, man. We did random pairings for the first mission. And let's go through our games real quick. My first game was against Dylan and his Van Saar.
How'd that go?
Actually, very well for me. Not so well for he did kill my plasma gun champion, like just straight up killed him, which was like it was the first injury roll, and Dylan rolls a fucking 66, and I'm just like,
oh Jesus!
I'm like having flashbacks to last year, being like, oh god, here we go again. But it was a loot crate mission in Zone Mortalis, and he got funneled into one hallway.
Oh, geez.
And he didn't really... I think Dylan likes to play on Sector Mechanicus boards a lot more than Zone Mortalis.
I know for a fact he does.
So he didn't really have the optimal setup for a Zone Mortalis fight. And my guys were much better at it because I had combat shotguns, I had grenade launchers, and he just sort of funneled in, and my templates just shredded him.
Yeah, well, also note that, his gang was set up for Sector Mechanicus and yours was set up for Zone Mortalis. What kind of boards did the two of you bring, respectively?
I brought a Zone Mortalis setup, and he brought a Sector, and we played on my Zone Mortalis setup. Yeah. So, he came into a central hallway and just, got nailed by a bunch of templates, and his dude started getting knocked out and running off, and I ended up winning that game. And if you win that game and the other guy bottles out, there's nobody left in the field, like, you get all the loot crates. So I got 5 fucking loot crates after my first game, which was really good because I had to buy back a plasma gun champion. I think I had a Juve killed in that game too, actually. So I had a Juve and a plasma gun champion to buy back immediately after the first game.
Oh, jeez.
So that was it was good that I was flush with cash off the first fight.
But say you had the money for it at least.
Yeah. So what about your first match?
So I think my first match was against Peter. You'll notice a theme here is that I only kind of remember a lot of the games because it's a lot of games very quickly together. We played how many games did you play over the weekend?
This would be 8 games of Necromunda over the weekend.
Yeah, so that's quite a bit of it. But yeah, I think my first game was against Peter, and he was really adamant to play on Dylan's Sector Mechanicus table because this was I've posted a fuckload of pictures of this on a few on Twitter, a few on Instagram, a bunch on Facebook, whatever, which some of you have probably already seen. But it is an absolutely incredible board. It's all scratch built. It's oil paints and plastic card and resin rivets and stuff. He's at 40k Ham Slam on Instagram, so give him a follow and check that stuff out. But yeah, our first game was on that, and my gang isn't a shooting gang, but it is even a little bit. But it was a lot of a shooting gang because I have a boss with a heavy bolter and a ganger with a bolter, and the two of them would put at least 4 people out of action every game. And yeah, I think my first shot, I knocked his leader out of action with my heavy bolter. That was the very first thing I did, and she didn't die, but she wasn't coming back for a while.
Yeah, heavy bolters are no fucking joke in Necromunda.
Yeah, no, not a one bit. And the rest, I think the game was seriously just me just blasting his dudes and chopping them up if they occasionally got too close, and it was not that much of a game if I recall correctly, but it was still fun to have just a big bloody battle right off the bat. So
yeah,
I don't think any of my guys even went out of action that game.
Yeah,
maybe one did, but yeah, it was a bit tough for him though.
Yeah, well, game 2, Campbell, was interesting because it was a Badcast showdown between me and you.
Now, that
now I'm going to be honest.
Very clearly,
I'm going to be honest. This was late night on Friday, and we had been drinking, and I don't remember a ton about this game. I know that we tied, it was a draw, and I know that Big Chungus, your leader, didn't actually do anything in the game because he ran out of ammo after his first shot.
Which happened almost every game I played this weekend. He'd run out of ammo after the first or second shot every single fucking time.
Yeah.
Whenever he shot, it would be fucking dead, but he'd be out of ammo after that point.
Now, this game, I do remember that, again, my plasma champion got killed. Straight up killed. I think it was a critically injured, and I didn't have the credits to bring him back kind of situation. So congrats on killing one of my guys permanently. But it did come to a draw, and I think, if I can remember correctly, it looked like you were winning at the beginning of the game, and then it swung hard in my favor, and I came back, and we ended up drawing at the end.
Yeah, it was me raiding your territory, and you'd have I started with a bunch of guys, and you had just a handful, and they'd keep rolling in randomly.
Right. Yes,
and
it was the Marauders scenario, where I get reinforcements, but you don't. So you came in, Big Chungus ran out of ammo, and then you didn't really. You took out a couple of guys, but you didn't get close to achieving your objective, I don't think. And then my dudes just started coming on the board edge, and it was I get 3 dudes now. And then suddenly it's I think I had 4 guys to start, and you had 6. And then I had 7 and you had 6, and then I had 8 and 9 and you had 6, and it was just
and I just that's when I bounced, but I did enough damage that it was a 4-4 tie. Really, the only specific I remember from this game is launching frag grenade after frag grenade at your guys and just knocking them over and not really doing anything.
Yep.
I don't think my frag grenade scored a single wound all weekend.
My frag grenade did a couple, but it's not what it's there for.
It's there to pin.
It's there for crowd control.
Yeah.
And it does a fantastic job at crowd control, the grenade launcher. So I do remember our game being fun and it being coming down to the wire, but it did end in a tie. And at that point, I think we were idiots and stayed up super late until 4 a.m. drinking again.
Yeah. You might have punched me in the nuts at some point that evening. You punched a bunch of people in the nuts that night.
Was I nut tapping people?
You were nut tapping people pretty voraciously.
That's hilarious.
Might want to leave that part out.
I don't fucking remember that at all. Well, sorry, guys. My bad. I was drinking somebody's whiskey, so.
Oh, was it that really good whiskey from Texas?
I think so. Yeah, Julian's whiskey. Yeah.
I finished that the next morning.
Yeah, it was bad news. I was pretty hungover on Saturday morning.
I wasn't too bad, honestly. Like, I'm one day I will not be too hungover. The problem is day 2. That's when I get really hungover.
So, game 3 comes in Saturday morning, and the joke was we were starting at 9 o'clock, and we started at like 11 o'clock, but we kept being like, all right, it's 9 o'clock, let's get going. Again, we drank too much.
Mm-hmm.
So, game 3, I played against Julian's Deluxe.
Oh, yeah?
And I was actually kind of worried about this game because Julian is a smart fella, and he's a tricksy guy, and he set up his gang to use tricks. And it didn't work. He tried to trick me. He had some really good tactics cards and sort of threw me off base. But he got into a situation where he clumped up his dudes, and I was like, oh, check it out. Here's a guy coming out of a ductway, and here's a tactic to use a combat shotgun to roast half your dudes. Aww. And it didn't quite work out. It was a situation where he kept trying to kill my dudes, and they wouldn't go out of action. And then they'd get back up and kill his dudes who did go out of action. And then he bottled and ran off.
Which board were you on?
Again, the Zone Mortalis board. I played most of my games on that Zone Mortalis board. And that's like, I didn't plan that. It was just like, it was the last, since that was like our zone where we were like figuring out all our matchups and everything, it was almost always the last board to be picked.
Yeah.
And I was almost always the last person to get challenged. So it worked out, but I think I played only one game not on that board.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Which is fine because it's my board and I enjoy using it. So I was like, yeah.
That's like good thing you spent all that time building the terrain for it.
Yeah. So game 3 against Julian's Deluxe was a pretty solid win for the Orlocks, which I was happy about. Right. What about your game 3?
I think my third game was against Eric Turlin's Goliaths.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was my third game.
Yeah.
And it was, his sweet stack or whatever they're called against my
Sugar Daddies, block. Yeah.
Sugar Daddies, they're all dessert names. Last year they were the Icebox Boys. But yeah, that was, I think he was trying to defile my gang relic or something like that. But the problem was, like, I had most of my gang and he had less guys.
Yeah.
And he infiltrated half of them. So he infiltrated half of his guys near basically all my buzzsaws, and I just mulched his dudes like right as they came in, and he had 2 guys like down the end of a long hallway, and I have a bolt gun guy holding down that hallway, and they never got close enough to do anything, and it was not a great showing for the sweet lads.
Yeah, Bolter's really good in Necro.
Bolters
really
are so fucking good.
Yeah, there's a problem with that mission, the Marauders mission.
Yeah.
I think it's that the attacking gang does not, they start out with 6 guys. You get to custom select your 6 guys, and the other guy has to do random selection D3 plus 2. And then I think it's D3. It might be D3 plus 3. And then they get reinforcements. But it's like you get a turn where you might have a numerical advantage as the attacker, and then you do not have a numerical advantage after that. Because it's D3 reinforcements coming in after that. So it's...
Right.
Yeah, I think for next time, I think the Marauders need to have like 8 dudes on their team for it to be honestly for it to be fair.
Because I find that especially when you're playing Goliaths who are really slow, you're not gonna get them to grips. You're not gonna get them to where they need to be. Because him infiltrating half of them did get them where they needed to be. The problem is my guys were all clustered up.
Yeah.
So
it can be difficult.
It was a rough scene.
All right, so let's talk about game 4.
But in that game, I did take his leader captive.
Yo,
it went that well for my guys.
Oh, shit, that's terrifying. Okay, so game 4 was the downtime game where we actually got to have a little bit of a couple of multiplayer showdowns. We had 2. We had the Ambull Hunt, where the Guilders had found an Ambull somewhere in the Underhive and hired some gangs to take it out. And then we had the Conqueror of the Spire, where an enterprising individual had set up a arena-style aggro crag-esque American Gladiators contest for cash and prizes. So you and I both took part. We should have done this differently. One of us should have been in each game so we could talk about each game. But we both took part in the Ambull Hunt.
Hey. I watched the second hour of the game downstairs.
The Conqueror of the Spire. We'll talk about that in a bit. That game took honestly way too fucking long. So the amble hunt was me, you, Peter, our host, and our friend Jameson. So it's 2 Eschers, a Goliath, and an Orlok against an amble and her 2 young, or the boar worm infestations. And this game got real stupid real fucking quick.
I loved this game so goddamn much. I think this actually was I think aside from just for obvious reasons, this was my favorite game of the weekend.
So the way this game sets up is the gangs all deploying corners of a 3x3 Necromunda tile board, and the amble and her young are deployed in the 3 central tiles, the column of the 3 central columns, as blips. 1, 2, and 3. 2 and 3 are boar worms. 1 is an amble, and you shuffle them up so you don't know which is which, and then you deploy them. And so first thing Jameson does is he runs up to one of the blips and discovers it. And we turn it over, and it's a fucking 1, and it's the amble. And he's right between Jameson and me on our side of the table, far from you and Peter. So the first thing we do, and it's amble party, and the amble immediately starts killing Jameson's guys, and then my guys happen to be close to it, then it starts killing my guys. But as that's happening, Peter stabs you in the back right from the get-go.
Yeah, so I move one of my guys up, and I think my renderizer guy moves up, and I find a boarworm infestation, so I just buzzsaw it and kill it immediately. Yep. They're tough, but renderizers are tougher.
Yeah.
And Peter immediately runs up, shoves a crack grenade in the guy's pants, and knocks him over. And I'm like, cool. Not only have because all right, so this mission's cool because you never know when your opponents are gonna betray you, because you need to work together because the amble will murk your entire gang.
Yep.
But when you just fucking betray them from the get-go,
yep,
it's not quite the famed single cross, but it's up there.
No, it was funny. So we both each gang had 4 models on the board, right?
Yeah, and you picked them.
Yeah, you got to pick them.
I liked a lot.
And so the idea was you work together to kill the amble, and then you fight over its corpse, and whoever gets to clear the board of the rest of the gangs gets to claim the bounties. Because I felt like it's not just about killing the amble, it's about killing the amble and then driving off the other gangs. So what happened on your guys' side of the table, and I wonder if it's a function of the amble coming up on our side of the table and you guys just being like, let them deal with it, is that you just cleared Peter off the board immediately.
Yeah, because he betrayed me right away, and he's right next to my gang, which has heavy bolter, grenade launcher, regular. I don't think I had a regular bolter. I think I had a combat shotgun. Yeah, because I was I liked that you got to pick your 4 guys because it meant I was kind of okay, if my gang gets wiped, I'm going to need at least one person who's good with shooting for the next game, just in case. So I liked that aspect of it. But yeah, he betrays me right from the start. And when you're right next to Goliaths, because you started really close together, you don't betray them because they will turn around and chop you up. And I just ran roughshod over his gang while you guys were getting killed by the amble.
Yeah, the amble is no fucking joke, dude.
No,
7 wounds, toughness 6, 3 damage in combat. It just ripped through. It ripped through an ambot, like Jameson's ambot, in 1 turn of combat.
Right. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal.
But we eventually, between ourselves, Jameson and I, we took 5 wounds off the motherfucker before it wiped out my guys and his guys, and that left it with 2 wounds in a dark hallway. Right, with 2 wounds in a dark hallway and 3 Goliaths. So Campbell very smartly, and Rob Jones, our friend Rob from Goonhammer and from an earlier episode of our podcast, was controlling the amble in this because he had come by just to hang out for a day, and I was like, let's give this guy something to do. So he was controlling the amble, and you got it to chase one of your guys through a doorway into a lit hallway, so you could actually shoot it from more than 3 inches away. Right. Which turned out to be very important because Big Chungus and his fucking heavy bolter just ended up taking out the amble. I think it took you a couple rounds of shooting, but it was pretty gnarly. I think I had 1 round where I tried to shoot it in the hallway, and I probably just fucking missed like I usually do. As long as I'm hitting on 2 up, and there's the 1. But yeah, I gunned the amble down, and at least for the next hour before people were calling me Big Chungus, I was Amble McLaughlin. Yes, you were Amble McLaughlin for a while, and that was a big game for you because you got a lot of cash and a lot of rep. Yeah, and a lot of experience too. Yeah. It was that one was a lot of fun. I think there are changes I would make to that though. I would do something to mitigate bottling, because you like lose one character and then your bottle rolls like like Jameson lost a character and immediately bottled out.
Yeah. Yeah, he was about to drag some worms off the table when his ganger just bottled out and she just bolted.
Yeah, just like dipped. Yeah, and I same thing happened to me. Is like my guys, I think I lost 2 out of my 4, and it was just like, and then my dudes was just like, nah, fuck this, and left. And it was just like, well, that sucks.
I mean, there's a bunch of missions in there where it's like, oh, they're defending their own territory. They have +3 to bottle checks, or they can't fail bottle checks, or don't have to take bottle checks. Like, you can write that in pretty easily.
Yeah, I think that's a change I'm going to make next time. I thought 4 characters per for guy was the right amount of people, so I think I'd have to change that for the next time. But quickly, I want to talk about the Conqueror of the Spire. So this game was being held in the basement on Peter's Slam Sector, which is a bunch of modular gantries and walkways and platforms and stuff. And I think they had more. We had a lot of fun. I think they had more fun than we did.
I mean, when I walked down watching it happen, it was also like after 45 minminutes or so, and they were just like,
Yeah, our game went quick.
Our game went very quick.
It was I actually liked that. I was like,
yeah, me too.
I was like, fuck yeah, this game's going fast. We're making good time here. And then they fucking slog through like a 3-hour game.
It's because first things first, Brandon plays Hivequake.
Yeah.
And all the ladders disappear, and everyone falls off all the gantries, and everyone just like swimming around at 2 inches a turn and having to roll strength checks. They don't drown because like the rules were written for like if you fell off a gantry, you'd fall in the water or fall in the sludge rather, and you have to like make a strength check to move or get sucked under. And everybody seemed to be down there. So
I did not think that a Hivequake would be played on turn 1 in Conqueror of the Spire and completely upended the game. But I'm kind of glad it did, because those guys had a shit ton of fun.
Yeah.
And Julian took a bunch. I think Julian and Eric took a bunch of knockback weapons.
Yes.
So like the whole game,
Eric
they were
had
just
2
like
grenade launchers or something.
They were just like knocking dudes off of the gantries left and right. And it would get to the point where somebody would make it up to the second level and then to get immediately knocked off by the other guys. Because like Julian had a long rifle guy on his base just waiting to snipe people.
Mm-hmm. Well, all that was before the star of the show showed up. Yes.
I had borrowed Dylan's Bullgorg model and instructed Julian, who's down there as my arbitrator partner, to whenever somebody gained the top level to push the big red button to win them the game, that first they would have to deal with Bullgorg, who, as we all know, is a champion pit fighter with chainsaws for hands.
Right. Although his name, similar to how Amble McLaughlin became Big Chungus, Bullgorg became Mungo Meatfist pretty quickly.
Yes, Mungo. So Mungo comes down and he like immediately rocks whoever got up to the top platform, like takes him out. But then Jules takes his long rifle, which again has knockback, and knocks Mungo Meatfist off of the top platform, and he keeps falling. I wrote the card for him, and I gave him a 5-up initiative because I figured like he's an older, slower character.
Yeah.
And he kept falling, and he fell from the top all the way into the sludge, hitting every platform on the way down.
That rules. Springfield gorging it.
And then Jules made what I think is the correct decision, that Mungo can't climb because he has chainsaws for hands.
Right. It's similar to how Strongbad can't type with boxing gloves on. He can't climb with chainsaw hands on.
So fortunately for the rest of the gangers, Mungo just hung out in the sludge sea at the bottom while they finally got to climb to the top. And I think Eric eventually won that one.
I think Eric was going to, then he got knocked off.
Did nobody win that one?
I think nobody. I think they just called it.
Oh my God.
And it was like, nobody wins. Everyone loses.
That's so hilarious.
Take home the home game.
I really want to, I want to play that mission a lot. Like, I think I'm going to be doing a Necromunda campaign in the DC area sometime soon. And I think I'm going to try to engineer a situation where I get to play that mission too.
Very cool.
Okay. So after that, we played another game. We played game 5. And this time I played Jameson's Escher in the same type of mission where you have to defile the other gang's gang relic or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And we played on Dylan's Sector Mechanicus table, and that includes like this little warehouse building.
Yeah.
So the door
opens on that, you know?
It does, yeah. But I just put my gang in there and put my relic in there and said, all right, buddy, come get me. And then I failed a bottle roll early on because I only started with 5 guys, and he knocked one guy into we both failed bottle rolls like immediately, like on the first or second turn. Because I think he started with 4 and I started with 5 or something or vice versa. And like we both had people get not even out of action, just seriously injured, and then immediately failed bottle rolls. And it just was like, all right, well, we'll see who runs off. And my guys ran off first. And then he won.
That didn't sound very satisfying.
It wasn't. It wasn't a very good game. I mean, Jameson's a cool guy. He's really smart, and he's fun to hang out with, and is definitely a good opponent. But it was just sort of like a game where you're just like, all right, cool.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, great, fun.
Well, my game was a lot more fun than that. I think Julian was my next opponent, and similarly, I was like, oh, I know he's a smart guy. I know he's a tricksy guy, and he's playing a tricksy gang, so this is going to be extra tricksy. And it was one of the missions where my guys were sentries, which is like great because I have Goliath guys just fucking bumping into walls and wandering around in random directions. The problem is, he comes in with all his guys are like silenced guns and like web guns and like
he's perfectly fit for that mission.
Yes, and his guys are like Metal Gear Soliding their way around, and they come up to one of my guys and they plug him. Except the problem is he's a Goliath, so he's T4. And he just gets back up and goes like, oh, there's bad guys here. And the alarm sounds almost immediately. I think actually he seriously injures him, my ganger he catches. And then in the injury roll, I roll a flesh wound and he just gets back up and blasts him with a grenade launcher.
Yeah. And thus the alarm is sounded.
The alarm is sounded. He didn't have quite enough time to get all his guys into position while my guy started to cascading in. Big Chungus gunned down I think he gunned down like a prone on fire Juve. He shot at his spiker and did some damage to him. Although
Jules had the Psyker, the Delac Brute. He custom made a model for it, which is it's called a spiker, but it's a trained Delac Psyker.
Yeah, it looks like a skinny dude with a big head riding a backway Segway, and I do not mean that in a derogatory way. That's just what he looks like. It's a very good conversion. Model, and when I shot him, he had a conversion field, so he teleports away every time I hit him.
Displacer field, my dude. Not a conversion.
Not conversion. He teleported away, but I still got a few wounds in on him. I didn't take him out of action. He wasn't quite able to get to my relic. He got really close to my relic. He had a guy grappling hooking all the way around the hallways. He had a pair of them just hook shotting their way across the rooms. But then I hand flamered them both and power axed them after that because I had enough credits for that prohibitively expensive ganger I mentioned earlier in the show. I think he's a champion, actually. It was a fun game. It was a tense game, too, because it was like, okay, is he going to get my thing in time? Because, is he close enough yet? He was really close to get actually defiling the relic. It was just near the side of a door. If he was just able to open that door, he would have gotten it. But that was a much more fun game. Than yours was, it sounds like.
Yeah, mine. I mean, Jameson's a good guy and everything, but it was just sort of like one of these games where both of the gangs are like, I don't really feel like doing this right now. So, and sometimes it's fucking Necromunda, man. It happens.
Yeah, that's game, sorry.
Okay, so after my game with Jameson, we played we had to do a 3-player game because Julian had to leave.
Right.
He had stuff to take care of. So we rolled up a 3-player gang. It was me, you, and Peter, and we were playing the gang moot, which is a very interesting scenario where your gang leaders start in the middle of the board, and then your gangers are set up around the board, but you set them up one at a time, and they have to be a certain amount of inches away from one another. I think 12 inches away from one another, or 6 inches. So the amount of gangers you have is really controlled by how much space there is on the board.
Right, and the gangers you have are almost entirely random except for your leader.
Yeah, you get to take your leader, but then you have to randomly determine who else is on your gang and then place them in order as you randomly determine them. So I think we had our leader in 5 each. It worked out that we all had an even number of people. It was either a total of 5 or a total of 6 models each. And this game, I fucking loved this game because I clowned you fucking buffoons.
I didn't get to play.
Immediately. You are oh my God. You keep fucking saying this, dude, and you're fucking wrong. You went first.
Yeah, and I missed and ran out of ammo immediately.
You missed and ran out of ammo with your big fucking Chungus immediately, but you went first.
I know. That's the only thing I did.
Okay. And then, like, so the first turn was Campbell, Peter, me. Okay. And in Necromunda, you activate one thing at a time, one guy at a time. And we all got our leaders in the fucking middle. So Campbell, what does he do? Big Chungus runs away from the other leaders and shoots at my guy, misses, and runs out of ammo. Then,
and mind you, I'm hitting on a 2-up at this point, too.
Yes.
So it's like extra disappointing.
Yeah, no, it's not only that, but you're a 2-up ballistic skill with a heavy bolter in short range shooting at a guy out in the open. And you miss. He rolls a 1.
Yep.
And then
I should have rolled the stray bullets thing because I might have shot your dog, which Peter was determined to do for the rest of the game.
Peter really wanted to kill my poor pup Rowdy.
It was the only thing he maybe had a chance of killing,
and he didn't, which was the best part.
No.
So after that, I think Peter shoots his leader at your leader, and
knocks a few wounds off him.
Knocks some wounds off, and then my leader comes in, charges, and kills your leader with a power hammer.
Yes, which is why I was trying to move.
And that's not the only thing my leader killed with a power hammer. He also did the same thing to your ambot, like a turn later.
Yeah, I know you had good luck with the ambot that weekend because you got some gang trainers and got a bunch of experience on it. But stock and I tried using the thing as a shooting unit, and it's not worth the grab fist in my opinion.
Well, we can debate that at the end. Let's keep talking about this game. So the rest of this game was me just cleaning up you two idiots gangers off the table and winning extremely easily.
Yeah, because I think my random thing rolled up like 2 of my juves, and one of them was like one who had a smoke grenade and an axe. Like it was. Yeah. I don't like anything with random ganger selection. Like I don't like it.
Listen, I had 2 juves on the table also.
Were they any good?
No, they didn't do anything.
Okay.
But the rest of my guys did everything and kicked your 2 idiots' asses up and down. It was great.
Yeah,
it was fantastic.
Sure.
Okay. Then we went out and got dinner at a restaurant nearby, and we came back and we had our Juve pit fight, which was, I think, the highlight of the weekend as far as games go.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the Amble Hunt was a lot of fun, but Juve fight was a whole different level of it.
So the Juve pit fight worked like this. We took the same map that we were using for the gang moot, which had a big open area in the middle, and we just were like, all right, Juves, you have to deploy within 6 inches of the center of the table, and we're just going to roll for priority and go down the list and see what happens. And this game fucking went crazy right from the get-go. I think Peter went first, and he immediately throws out a beast lure, which brings out a beast's lair. A lot of very similar words here. And the beast lair attacks things that are near it on a dice roll. Mm-hmm. And Peter throws out the beast lair, attempts to run away, and is immediately killed by the beast. His Juve.
In the most on-brand move physically possible.
Yeah. It was so funny. And it was it set the perfect tone for the Juve fight moving forward. Well, you were complaining about not having anything to do in the game, but our friend Dylan didn't have anything to do in the game because even though I was somewhere in the middle of the pack as far as activations go, my Juve runs up, stabs Dylan's guy in the back immediately and kills him.
Right. And
just a run, stab, and Dylan's like, all right, I'm out of the game.
Yep, but
sorry, bud.
But he was saying it was still so much fun to watch just because, like, every probably minute and a half, Eric would go, Jew fight! And it would just start over again.
Well, the Jew fight was great because, like, everybody that could afford it brought a hand flamer on their Juve.
Yeah, and there was supposed to be, like, an Escher alliance, and it did not work out at all.
The Escher alliance. We had 3 Escher players in the Escher alliance. And I think this is serendipitous because Peter and his duplicitous nature, stabbing you in the back immediately in the Amble Hunt, virtually like ensured that the Escher alliance was a complete fabrication.
Yeah, he basically
a figment of the imagination.
Stabbed everyone in the front, honestly, with the trap. Which means like every time you move, you're rolling a die. If you roll a 6, the thing's going to attack you. And
so, yeah,
it had its fill.
Yeah. So right off the bat, a bunch of Jews get set on fire and start running around they're on fire, and
literally
chaos ensues. And I think at the end of it, it came down to you and Eric.
Yes,
I know my Juve was the third to last to go out. So, and he was beaten up by Eric's Juve in combat. And then I think you and Eric got into a protracted combat, right?
No, I thought me and you got into protracted combat because Eric's Juve was running around on fire.
That's
for a
right.
while.
No, you're right. Yeah. Your Juve took out my guy because Eric's guy was on fire and running around.
And it was just like slap fight for like maybe 6 exchanges of dice rolls before one of us did anything. And it would just like the tension would raise like, oh, he actually hit. He wanted to save. It was fantastic. I loved that. And then by the time his guy finished being on fire, then he and I had a second one of those fights.
And I can't. Did Eric want it? Right?
No, I did.
Oh, you did. Oh, that's right. You won the Juve fight and the amble hunt. Yeah, you motherfucker.
Yeah, which meant I got to spend 100 credits and stuff for my Juve when I'd already bought him like everything I could. So he got like grappling hooks and photo goggles and drop rigs and like nose plugs and shit. So I have, I don't mean to spoil what my final gang rating is here, but let me just look up what the final gang rating of this guy is, because this was this was
a
Achilles.
little bit ridiculous.
355 credits. For reference, a normal ganger with like a las gun is like, I don't know, 75 for most gangs.
Yeah. But that's Cinco de Necro, baby. We're fucking, all the ridiculous shit's happening. So the Jew fight was hilarious. And I think if you are planning to do a campaign and you got like a downtime phase, you got to throw a Jew fight in there.
Do a Jew fight, because we even had it so like if someone got seriously injured, it's like, well, this is supposed to be on the down low, so they're not going to have anyone help them get to the doctor. So if they're seriously the critical condition, they're just dead. So Eric's guy, I killed Eric's guy.
Yeah, that's right. Eric's Jew died. yeah, because it was the narrative behind it was the Jews have snuck off to like a parking lot to go have a fight club or something.
Yeah.
So that was Saturday night. We stayed up way too late drinking again. And then Sunday morning, though honestly it was more like Sunday afternoon, came around and we played our 7th and final game.
Right.
And I played against Eric's Goliaths, the Sugar Daddies. It was a whole gang tunnel skirmish, which is just a straight up and down shootout between gangs. I think he had 12 guys on his gang. I had 13, and it was just nuts. I won. I thought it was going to be bad because he had one of the higher gang ratings out of everybody. I won. I knocked his ambot into a pitfall on like turn 1. His ambot got too close to a pitfall, and I combat shotted it, and it failed its initiative roll, and it fell into a pit and went out of action. And I was like, ha! Gotcha, motherfucker. But it was another game where we were trading grenade launcher shots back and forth the entire time, pinning people. And it actually was kind of a longer game because it was nearly impossible to bottle out with like 12 and 13 guys in the gang. And so it just went to like a total punch fest where my ambot ran fucking wild on his entire gang.
Phew.
And let's actually talk about ambots real quick, because you alluded to the fact that you did not like your ambot that much.
I think it is a big walking dumpster. It's a great fire magnet because everyone wants to shoot it because it's big and colorful. But until my actual final game, it didn't do a damn thing. Like the grav flux never really seemed to apply to anything I shot at. Everything just kind of walked through a little slower. It never hits anything, gets BS5. And because it is such like a big fat target, you can't hide it very well. So I think if I were to use it again instead, like in a new campaign, I would just up its movement and make it a close combat monster and try to give it Nerves of Steel.
Yeah, I mean, that's it's like 9 experience to give it to him, but that's like the first thing you got to do.
Yeah.
Because if it gets pinned, it's just like, it's got like a cool of 6 too. So it's a good Nerves of Steel candidate. But if it gets pinned, it's just kind of fucking useless. Well, to contrary to what you think about your aimbot, my aimbot fucking ruled like the entire time. The Grav Fist worked every single time, where it might not hit, but it's still scattering, and it's still a blast template, and it puts out a fucking half movement zone for the rest of the turn. So if you put that thing out early, and your gang is a close combat gang, my gang is a close range shooting gang. So I want to stop, and I used it for great effect against Eric, where he was trying to come around this choke point, and I just kept shooting the grav gun template right there. So his dudes, which are Goliaths, or majority movement 4, have to do double movement through this thing. So they can move 2 inches through this thing, which it was perfect because it just slowed them really down. Good. It kept slowing them down. And I was able to get in plasma guns and bolters and shit while they were trying to make through this grav gun shot. And then when the ambot gets into combat, it's a fucking beast. Like
I will say, when it gets to combat, it's pretty nasty.
Yeah, it's like 4 attacks, strength 6, doing multiple damage per. It's fucking mean, dude. And I loved it, man. I think like an ambot is, if you can afford it, the grav gun is great for mitigating its bad shooting. I think it does. I think it's a little expensive for what it does. 70 points added on for the grav gun, but you got to treat this thing like it's a close combat first ganger.
Which makes you not want to spend 70 creds on a gun for it. That's
no, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I totally get that. I think in the future I'm going to be purchasing it with the grav gun just because I like as a gang that's not a close combat gang. It's nice to have some sort of mitigation against like a Goliath gang or something. But I think it was the Ambot, my Ambot, Big Mac as we called it. He fucking wrecked shit. And in my game against Eric, I think he took out like 4 Goliaths out of action, including Eric's leader and his best champion.
Oh, jeez.
Like, it was just running around causing all sorts of problems. And my guys it didn't really do a ton of damage in the shooting phase. I think my plasma gun guys did No. My plasma champion, who had 2-up ballistic skill, he hit once the entire game, and we played like 12 rounds.
Jesus.
Yeah, it was terrible. Like, I was rolling ones every single time he shot. It was a good game, though. I did win, and it was a lot of fun. Goliaths are tough, man, especially late game Goliaths. He had everybody had like armored undersuits. So, and like, I think his leader had carapace armor and an armored undersuit.
Oh my God.
So he was rocking 4-up and 3-up saves everywhere.
Yeah.
Which was tough to deal with.
I did something pretty similar with my gangs. It was a lot of like T5, multiple wounds, 4-up save guys when you hit them from the front, which is usually where you hit them from.
Yeah.
But yeah, so by the end of mine, or actually, sorry.
What was your last game?
That's it. My last game was against Brandon because he was, I think, pretty near the bottom of the barrel as far as like
at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, he was at the bottom of the list, and I was at the top. And he's like, "Fuck it, I'm going for the king." So he challenges me. We play in the Sector Mechanicus table, and like predictably, he plays like a bunch of cards right away, like the ones where it's like, your guys are paranoids. If you're within 9 inches of my guys, you take like worse cool checks or whatever. And also Hivequake, which a few guys fall over, and some of his fall off gantries, none of mine too. And yeah, it's the full gang versus full gang. So at this point, I'm 14 guys, including a hobo with a shotgun, backing me up just because I brought my scum models. I may as well use them. They were in Peter's excellent saloon that he built. Yeah. It's just a cardboard box with a lot of wonderful hand-drawn art in there in Sharpie. True to form, first round, Big Chungus drops like a ganger or a champion with his heavy bolter at max range. He knocks him down, like gets him down to 1 wound, but I just have this like fire base there with like Big Chungus and a grenade launcher and then like a bolter in the middle of the table. So I have the whole top of the table. I'm just shooting down at whatever's in my way. I have all my close combat guys moving up, usually advancing behind the Ambot because everyone wants to shoot the Ambot. Yep. And I run him over pretty badly, I will say. But in this game, my Ambot did actually do something where it did mulch his leader and I think one other ganger.
Very nice.
But yeah, it was he did do a good amount of damage to my gang actually. Like he knocked 2 or 3 of them out of action. But it was still, by the end of the game, it was still firmly in my hands.
Yeah. So let's quickly talk about getting home before we get into takeaways.
Oh boy. Yeah.
So you have a lot to say on this one. I don't. It took me only 4.5 hours to get home. It was really no problems. I got home in time to have dinner, and yeah, it was a great weekend, a great time, and I can't wait to do it again. But please, Campbell, tell me about your trip home.
Well, we were the last to leave just because we had so much stuff to pack up because, Dylan had all his terrain and he had all his like food stuff because we brought a lot of food. Like we brought like $100-something worth of meat.
Yeah, Dylan was making food the whole time and it was good. It was good food.
Well, it's because I cooked last year and he's like, I would eat good food instead.
Shit.
But I was in the kitchen toasting buns. I helped.
You helped.
But yeah, I was the co-slopper. But yeah, so we get in the car, we start driving out. About 20 minutes in, white steam is just billowing from the hood. And I don't know if you've played Grand Theft Auto before, but that usually means next up is black smoke, and next up is fire, and next up is your car exploding. So
yes, that's how it happens in the real world too.
Yeah, in that exact order. So we pull over, and after driving, noticing the heat gauge is going real hot, and like there's a tube that's cracked. And it's just like billowing steam. So he gets a lift down to an auto zone, comes back and replaces the part, which means I need to go into like the only Chinese restaurant open in town to be like, hey, can I borrow a knife? And I'm like, just a blade will be good. So I ran out there with like a box cutter, and we had to like cut the pipe and reattach that. And he starts driving again, and the heat's still going up. So we needed to get a tow, and unfortunately, his car is still in Jersey as of this recording, but
shit.
Yeah, Peter and Kat came and picked us up, and they took us out to dinner at the Art House, and we just, sat there and had a beer and all that stuff. And it was great to spend our night with them, by which was under, circumstances that didn't involve a car breaking down. So the next day, we got a rental, and we spent the night at Peter's, and we got a rental and drove back. And the drive back was honestly pretty uneventful. It was just, drive back to Boston. It's like 4 to 5 hours, something like that. But
so his car is still in Jersey?
His car is still in Jersey. He'll be going back to get it soon. Hopefully by the time this episode's out, he'll have gotten it again. But
oh my God, yeah. What a nightmare.
Yeah, so that's not extra great.
No, it's not.
But we got home, Anne had made fajitas, so we hung out here and had, dinner and beer and all that stuff, and then he, went his own way. So everyone's home okay, just one car isn't yet.
Yeah. Yeah, what a weekend. So let's quickly...
Yeah, I will say it does not ruin the weekend for us, by the way. Like, it was still a fantastic weekend. It was just not the way we would have chosen to end it.
All right, so I'm sure you listeners are thinking, well, Dan, who won the campaign? Well, I can tell you right now, we had 4 conditions for winning. There was number of terrain, your wealth, the number of people you've knocked out of action, and one more. I think it was your reputation. That's right.
Yeah, rep.
And I'll tell you right now that Jameson had the most territories. And then Campbell had the other 3 win conditions.
Yeah. At the end of it, I had, I'm looking at my little thing right here. I had 3 territories because I never got to challenge anybody, so I was never trying to take territory.
Yeah.
I had knocked 29 gangers out of action.
Mm-hmm.
My rating was 2990. And my rep was 18, which started with someone drew a dick next to 18, and then that
was
dick,
Rob.
Yeah, it broke through the line on top and kept going.
Yeah. Well, conversely, I only had 2 territories at that point because, again, I was near the top of the list. I had 24 out of action, so close to you there.
Yeah.
I had a 15 rep, and my final wealth was 2635. So... Now, I've suggested to you, Campbell, it might be fun if you bring your gang with you to Nova and you and I play a Cinco de Necro showdown with our beefy fucking gangs Wednesday night at my house.
I would be down with that because actually that was my wealth before the last game. Right now it's at 3060.
Right. Yeah. No, it's crazy. Yeah. Like your gang is bloated as shit. But
yeah.
I think it might be fun to play a quick game of Necro, see who's really on top.
I would love to. Who is your most expensive ganger and how much are they?
My leader, King Mabel, I think he's close to 600.
Really?
Yeah, no, he on the last after the last game, I rolled double 6s for the check to see what the trading post was, and I had a ton of credits, so I bought him a full servo harness.
Oh wow!
Yeah, no, he's a beast. I think in a stand-up fight against Chungus, he would rock the shit out of Chungus. I mean,
Big Chungus is 560 credits. He is toughness 6 with 3 wounds and a 4-up save.
Yeah, my guy's toughness 6 with 4 wounds and a 4-up.
Jesus.
Yeah, and he's strength 5 too with a plasma pistol and a power hammer.
Oh yeah, I never upped his strength because my guy was just shooting the whole time. The few times Chungus ended up in hand-to-hand combat, he was not extra great because brute cleavers are mediocre.
Yeah, so it might be fun to do that in September or August, I guess, when we get together for Nova.
Yeah, only need to bring 14 models along.
Yeah, right. I think you'll be able to fit them in your case. Yeah. So that was Cinco de Necro, man. It was a wonderful thing. I want to talk about some takeaways though. Before we get out of here. The first one is that the Necromunda rule set is fundamentally broken. And I'm not talking about like the way you play the game. I think the game itself is a ton of fun. But a big problem we had at Cinco de Necro is that there was no consensus on how to play the game. Since we were like working with a lot of people working with older rule books, and they didn't know that there was a bunch of rule changes in the new rule book. Because Games Workshop really didn't broadcast that at all. There was no one single place to get all the rules. There was no like talk about how like tactics cards was a big problem, and I'll get to that in a moment. But the way they released it, like how they've done it piecemeal with the gang war books and the new compendium books and all that stuff, like it's really bad.
I feel like it works well for Underworlds. It works well for Blood Bowl, where you have these very kind of contained groups and the core rules are the same. But for Necromunda, it does kind of spiral out of control.
Yeah, so the game is great. It's a ton of fun, but the rules are a huge problem. So, there is a document on Reddit that is like updated as things update, and that's really fucking useful because it's accurate, which is nice. But like there came into times where like a lot of people thought something was done in one way, but like you look at the rules, no, it's done in a different way, and it may have been done in the previous way in a previous book, but it's just really poorly organized.
Yeah, it's a great game. It's just hard to get to it sometimes.
Yeah. I also think that they have done a bad job with tactics cards. So tactics cards were not released all together in one thing. There is the box set of tactics cards that comes with the Necro box, right? That's like a bunch of base cards for everybody. And then each gang gets their own set of cards. But in each of those gang sets, there are a bunch of general cards any gang can use also.
Yeah.
So I didn't fucking know this. Like before this shit went, I didn't pay attention to tactics cards at all, to my disadvantage. So people kept playing these rad ass fucking tactics cards during games, and I was like, where the fuck is that from? What the fuck card is this? So Campbell, I've actually done something about this, and I wrote an article on Goonhammer, which we talked about last episode of the 40k Badcast. Goonhammer is a great resource for anything 40k. I wrote a Necromunda article on tactics where I ranked all of the Necromunda tactics cards, like all 160 or however many there are, into different tiers of like tier 1 is good in any situation, tier 2 is good in some situations, tier 3 is bad, and tier 4 is hilariously bad. Like now I know about all the fucking tactics and shit, but I think that Games Workshop once again fucked up the rules for this, and specifically the releasing of the rules for this, in a big way.
Yeah, I think all right. So first of all, I read the tactics article, actually. I did read it, and I enjoyed reading it, and I enjoyed finding like, ooh, where did the cards I choose land in this? Oh, they're all the bad ones.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me. Yeah, because I only had the Orlok pack, and for whatever reason, every gang gets 12 gang-specific tactics, except Orloks, who only get 8.
That's really weird.
The rest of the cards that come in the Orlok pack, almost all of them rank at the bottom of the list. And so that was the only cards I had access to. So I was like working with dumb shit the whole time. But now I have a ranking of tactics cards. And so if you guys, I would say if you're interested in Necromunda, go ahead and go to Goonhammer and look up my article. It's called Necromunda: Which Tactics Cards Are Actually Good, and read that. It'll make a lot of sense. And I go into like what I consider to be the correct use of tactics cards and a whole bunch of shit for that. It was a lot of fun writing it, and hopefully people do enjoy it.
Yeah, because I didn't really think about tactics cards much before this event. I'm not going to lie. I've owned them, but I've barely used them. But when Julian got my Ambot drunk, then I knew something was good here.
Yes. Yeah, Julian actually did his fucking research and knew what tactics cards he wanted to use, which is more than I can say for myself. Yep. So there's a couple things I want to add to next time we do this.
Okay.
One of them is a bounty hunter mechanic, where nobody really uses bounty hunters, but bounty hunters are fun and flavorful and great, and also a great way to, maybe not a great way, but a good way to help equalize if a really crappy gang is playing a really good gang. And I want to do something where the bounty hunters are somewhat independent, and you don't have to pay for them. So there's two ways to do this. One is like a rating-based, almost inducement situation, like in Blood Bowl, where you get you roll 2d6, and if you get like a 10 or higher, you get to pick from about like a stable of available bounty hunters, and that number gets modified based on like how much lower rating you have. You know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
So there's something like that. But then I also want to do player bounties. Like, I would have loved to have put out a hit on Big Chungus.
Everyone would have liked to put a hit on Big Chungus.
And that's a situation where, like, depending on how much the bounty is, like, you roll dice and you add a number based on how much the bounty is to that dice roll. And if it's like, again, like a 2d6, if it's a 10 or higher or something like that, and I haven't figured this out yet, I'm just talking about it, then the attacking gang gets a bounty hunter. that will just come with them, and they get to use them for free. And even if it's random selection, the bounty hunter is still used kind of situation because they're out looking for the guy that they're going after, and they get to help out in that battle. And I think that's a fun way to add a little bit of beef, like a little conflict between the players into the game, and a mechanic where, because bounty hunters on their own, they're almost universally not worth it.
No, because they only stick around for a little while. They're really expensive, like prohibitively expensive in a lot of cases. Yeah. And if you're a gang that really needs the help, in the case of like this sort of event like we're talking about, you're not going to have the credits to spend on the bounty hunter anyway.
Right. So I feel like some sort of mechanic where bounty hunters sort of act on their own and can act as some sort of equalizing force, or bring it into like I'm going to put a 200 credit hit on Big Chungus. So that means whoever goes against you in a game gets to roll 2d6 and add 4 for like every 50 credits, 1 for every 50 credits of bounty on it. And then if they get a 10 or higher, they get to select from this stable of bounty hunters to add to their gang for that game for free. Because that bounty hunter's going after Chungus.
They're going after the biggest Chungus in the room. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so I think that would be a lot of fun to add to a future campaign. So I'm definitely gonna get with Julian and like actually figure out how to do that without breaking the game. Cool. And then the last thing I want to say about this was one of the most fun gaming experiences I've ever had. I had so much fucking fun bringing this campaign along with Julian to you guys. I had so much fun doing it. The games were great. Everybody had a good time. And I came home just wanting to play more Necromunda.
And that's the exact way you should feel after an event like this, really. Like, I also want to thank you and Julian for putting this whole thing together, and Peter for hosting the damn thing. Because, like, coming together and just playing a bunch of games in Necromunda, that's cool. Like, that's fun. Like, that's always going to be fun. It's a fun game. But having this level of, like, sort of GM involvement where you had, like, some special missions and special conditions and special rules and so on just made it a lot more fun and kind of brought everyone closer together. So thank you all for making that happen.
Yeah, I hope everybody had a really good time. I hope we do it again. I really do.
I think we will. Like, everyone else seemed to be having a very good time as well, and I would not expect this to I would expect this to continue.
I hope so. Okay, so let's move on. Let's get to the close of the show here and go to fact or fan fiction, where I don't know if you can top last show's fucking fact or fan fiction.
I can't. I probably never will, but I'm gonna try anyway.
All right, give it to me.
Jessica looked into the rooms around her. There wasn't much, just some bins, a few workstations, and a blocked-off way to the infirmary. She did, however, finally find the first jammer. Captain Van Winter? Inquisitor, thank the Emperor, you're still alive, Van Winter replied over the communicator. It would have been convenient if I died here, Jessica replied. What? No, I'm on your side. Besides, who would clear my name if you died? No question mark, Captain Winter replied. Something seems very wrong with his fortress monastery, Jessica said, noticing an bloody trail. I will report in shortly, Jessica said, then started heading down the stairs. The door at the bottom was slightly open. Strange? Jessica wondered to herself. She peeked through the door and saw a space marine tied up on a ritual circle. Jessica was about to enter when someone, or something, entered the room. The strange man was wearing black power armor. Quiet now, my little sheep. The time of sacrifice is at hand, he said. The Marine looked injured. Sheep, sheep, sheep. It's time for sleep. Rest your head. It's time for bed. In the morning you may wake, or you may be dead, the voice began. That's not creepy, Jessica said as she burst through the door and opening fire with her bolter. She then helped the Marine up. Right. Suddenly, a roaring noise was heard behind the door the Ink Man walked through. Sounds of a scuffle followed. Suddenly, chaos creatures started running towards them. Hold on, Jessica said, as she put the Marine down and oped fire with her bolter. For the Emperor, she exclaimed as she swung her chainsword with her left hand and fired her bolter with her right hand. Suddenly, a massive roar as a Plague Marine appeared and charged towards Jessica. Both Jessica and the injured fired at the Plague Marine with their bolter
How'd the injured one get a bolter? Wouldn't they have taken that away from him when they tied him up?
I don't know where he got his bolter Please, don't take me out of this story, Dan.
Sorry.
Inquisitor, Captain Van Winter came over her comms. Not now, Jessica snapped. The ship has activated its warp drive. I suggest you finish what you're doing and switch off the teleportation jammer, Captain Van Winter replied. For the glory of the Imperium, Jessica screamed and swung her chainsword hard, lobbing the Plague Marine's head clean off. By the Emperor, the Marine exclaimed as Jessica switched the jammer off. Captain 2 to beam, Inquisitor Jessica said. The fortress monastery began to move into the warp space. Inquisitor? Captain Van Winter said, as the ship then disappeared. Shit, she said. Relax, Captain. We are on board the Adaptes Astartes is in the med bay, Jessica replied. We need Adaptes Mechanicus to heal him, though. The merciful agony. The fortress hospital isn't far from here. There should be Adaptus Boiculus there, Captain Van Winter said. Then set a course, Inquisitor Jessica replied, as she sent her report to the Conclave.
Yeah, that's garbage fanfiction. I like how it didn't involve Sonic the Hedgehog, but
this time.
So yeah, that's bad. That was. I like how all she had to do to kill the Plague Marine was to swing her chainsword hard. Like she hadn't been doing it. She hadn't tried that yet.
I'm glad that the Plague Marine tortured the Space Marine, but not so much that he couldn't be fixed by the Adeptus Boiculus.
Yeah, so, you gotta love those Boiculus.
So did you say if that was Factor fan fiction? I can't recall what your verdict was.
That's fan fiction, Campbell.
Yeah, that is Warhammer 40k Inquisition, The Daughters of the Phoenix, Chapter 5, The Mystery Deepens, which is also probably the least horny chapter of this fan fiction. Because it gets very horny. There are parts I would not be totally comfortable reading on air.
What part in that chapter did the mystery actually deepen?
Well, if you really want to find how things can deepen, read the horny chapters.
Oh boy! All right, well, that's something. That's something.
I'm establishing the status quo again here.
Let's get some plugs before we get out of here. First, I want to plug Goonhammer, where I wrote that sweet article. You should go read it, goonhammer.com. And not only that, Campbell is going to be talking about his road to Nova coming up. There are multiple people who are already posting about their individual roads to Nova. There are tactic articles. There are painting articles. It is a great resource, and I think everybody should go check it out.
Yeah, you should. I'm still only in the first article of the Road to Nova thing, but I'll be posting more real soon.
Additionally, you can reach out to us on social media. Twitter is probably the best way to get at us. I am at DB_sleazy. He is at Brother SRM. And man, oh man, I've been unfollowing a lot of people on Twitter lately.
I have been too, but mostly just I'm tired of inane bullshit, and I want more of that. Give me more of that weird Twitter shit right in my veins. But
more of those surreal memes bot.
Ooh, good
is
one.
A good one to follow if you guys are looking for a follow out there. That's a weird account.
Well, I recently tweeted out a picture of one of my newer models compared to one of my older models because I am offloading some real old badly painted shit on eBay. So if you can check that out, you can see what it looks like when you call the kid ugly in middle school and what he grows up to look like. So.
Still ugly is actually how that works. So, Campbell, you are also on Tumblr. You sometimes post your pictures of your models to Tumblr, I believe.
Right, at cam2d.tumblr.com. I will take pictures of my Marines soon. My cat is still on her bench.
Campbell is also on Facebook, and he has the Cam, with an M, Hammer Facebook group, which is sort of like if we had a 40k Badcast group, but not really.
It is facebook.com/40k Badcast, but they won't let me change the title. And at this point, I'm just not able to.
So you can interact with him there because I'm not on Facebook and other listeners if you want to. But the single best way to contact the 40k Badcast is, surprisingly, sending an email to contact@40kbadcast.com, where you can send us pictures of your hobby progress. You can ask us just about whatever the fuck you want. You can give us questions for We Make the Call. That's very important. We need those. And just reach out to us and talk to us. We want to hear from you. We have gotten a lot of emails recently and have responded to every single one of them. So please,
super good.
Please get at us at contact@40kbadcast.com.
No, we have come a long way from me telling you to finally check the email account because people are asking to talk to you.
Yes, no, I get push notifications to my phone whenever we get email in our inbox. So I see all of the emails. Sometimes I see them at night when I'm about to go to bed. So I don't respond at that point. But I'll respond later. Don't worry about it. Okay. You can also buy t-shirts from us. We have shop.spreadshirt.com/40k Badcast. We have plenty of fine t-shirts. We don't have any new designs to talk about yet, so don't worry about it too much, guys. We'll get a new one coming up soon. Last time was in March with the Cult of the Swole-Armed Emperor, which is a great shirt. You should buy it.
I will say, given the weather right now, it might have been a little premature.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, because we've never been premature. If you know what I mean.
Oh, look at this fucking guy over here.
We also have a Patreon where you can support the show at 3 different levels of support. And we've got some fun stuff planned for that coming out soon. So why don't you go check that out? That's patreon.com/40k Badcast. Campbell, is there anything else you need to plug?
No, you got it all covered right there.
All right, then you got to give me a quote so I can think about it in the intervening weeks between our shows.
Doubt is the fatal flaw in any armor.
It certainly fucking is, Campbell. It's also the fatal flaw in a lot of people. We are the 40k Badcast. We are bad at 40k. You can too, and we will see you in the next cartoon.